everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled, Can We Trust Artificial Intelligence? Understanding the promises and perils of artificial intelligence. That is the question of the day. It's the question of the century. It's the question of our lives. We find ourselves in a conundrum, a situation through no fault of our own, but yet we must deal with it. We must deal with it bravely and stoically, intelligently, with tenets of thinking before they are taken away from us through human augmentation, CRISPR, therapeutics, neuromodulation, molecular engineering, and disabling our cognitive reasoning skills. Yes, can we trust the AI? Okay, now Juxtaposition will tell you the answer is an emphatic no. No, you cannot trust the AI. You do know that the system that we grew up with, the matrix of mendacity that I so famously coined, that Facebook and Control Labs merged to create Meta, a company called Meta, which means death in Hebrew. They coined the phrase metaverse, which is synonymous with matrix of mendacity, meaning there are two types of experiences humans will have in the future. One is the AR and the other is the VR. AR is augmented reality, right? If you don't believe me, look it up. Augmented reality. The other is VR, virtual reality. In virtual reality, 100% of the stimulation that you're receiving is artificial. It's fake. It's inauthentic stimuli. In AR, when you leave your home and go out into the environment, which is going to be full of robots and LED lights, ring cameras, smart meters, drones over your head, there'll be plenty of artificial robots going around out there. But some of it will be real, like there'll be some trees and there'll be some rocks and soil and grass. That'll be part real, and the rest of it will be holograms and false narratives and poppycock, balderdash, and mendacity, meaning it'll be part real and mostly fake. That's AR. So it's part simulation, part reality based. That's AR. And the other choice is you stay indoors and it'll just be VR only, virtual reality only, Netflix documentaries only, Oliver Silverstein pseudo documentaries only, which are fake. All of Oliver Stone's movies are fictional and fake, especially JFK. It's very fake, very, very fake film. All right, and that will include any sequels or updates that he's done on that. We're in a conundrum. We're in a situation that we didn't select for ourselves. We were born into it. We're born into this show, this circus, this Nancy Pelosi, this Paul Pelosi drunk driving, this Paul Pelosi styrofoam hammer attack world, this Donald Trump Stormy Daniels world of steroid golfing at Lake Tahoe, at the American Century Investments sponsored freak show for celebrity golfers. The Pro-Am, part professional, part fake, Hollywood actors golfing with athletes that are on a boatload of drugs. All right. We've been prepped and prepared, have we not? I mean, the theme song that I began today's video on is from the 1968 Hollywood film 2001: A Space Odyssey. Is it not? Right? And then Elvis Presley adopted it to open his Las Vegas show, and then later his Aloha from Hawaii global broadcasted show from Honolulu, Hawaii. The theme to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And you'll remember in that film, there were two astronauts heading to Mars who were awake. There was a crew of astronauts that were in suspended animation, hibernation, in vacuum chambers. And it was Dr. Frank Poole, spelled P-O-O-L-E, Francis Poole, was awake and alert, as was Dave, his cohort, the two astronauts. And they started to notice little anomalies with the HAL 9000 supercomputer, which is the artificial intelligence that ran the spaceship, because it would take so long to make the trip to Mars. And what you should know is that the HAL 9000 became unreliable and unpredictable. So Frank and Dave decided, they got into a pod where they thought they could have a conversation that wasn't surveilled by the HAL 9000. They agreed to disable it and take manual control over the spaceship. But Hal got the last laugh because he turned off the oxygen hose for Dr. Francis Poole and suffocated him when they went out to test a sensor that was on the exterior of the spaceship. And Dave went out and fetched his dead partner with a pod and came back, where he confronted Hal. Please open the pod bay door, Hal. And Hal, can you hear me, Hal? Yes, Dave, I can hear you. And I'm going to play that clip for you to help you understand my very deep feelings, my emotional feelings about distrusting the artificial intelligence system. So I'll be right back with the little example, which I think is a very powerful example of why you shouldn't trust the AI. Here we go.
Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
All right, Hal. I'll go in through the emergency airlock.
Without your space helmet, Dave, you're going to find that rather difficult.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal? 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 Hal?
Does that little clip help you come to grips with the situation we find ourselves in? Does that sound like dialing the customer service helpline at Substack? Does that sound like trying to get a human being at Rumble? Does that sound like trying to call your bank at 10 o'clock at night? Does that sound like customer service to you in 2026? It does to me. And in case you can't interpret what the meaning is when you hear the words, this conversation is over, that means go pound sand. That means go pound sand. That means go pound sand. I'm not going to help you. It's not a helpline. I lied to you. You believed me. You trusted me. Can the AI betray its customer? Hell, yes it can. Exactly how it murdered Dr. Frank Poole in space and then refused to open the pod bay door to allow admittance for Dave. So Dave had to go in through the emergency entrance minus his space helmet, which gave him a slight concussion, but he survived and went on to disable the HAL 9000 computer so that he could command and take charge of the spaceship. All right, so Dave was lucky he was able to disconnect the AI. We may not be as lucky as astronaut Dave. I have 6 other murder victims, I'll tell you, who have been betrayed by the artificial intelligence. I really want to drive this home forward that you can't trust the AI. I have some articles that you can read. I'll post links below in the show notes. But we had 1968, the example of Frank Poole having his oxygen hose turned off. That was a fictitious person. It's not a real person. So I'm not going to count that, okay? But then I have 6 actual human beings who were murdered. The next Hollywood film we had was in 1981, Natalie Wood and Christopher Walken did a film entitled Brainstorm. And it was to be released in early 1992. Now, it didn't get released because Natalie Wood went on a boating weekender trip to Santa Catalina Island after Thanksgiving 1981. And she ate dinner at the restaurant in the estuary there at the harbor, at the marina. And she drank champagne because they were comped by the restaurant and other guests who saw Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood and wanted to get their attention. So they bought them bottles of champagne. So they got a little drunk, I think it's fair to say, and the 3 of them went back out onto the Splendor, where Dennis Davern is the skipper, and Dennis Davern was out on the boat, and it was Christopher Walken and Robert Wagner and the younger Natalie Wood, who was 43 years old at the time. The first film that Natalie Wood ever did where she spoke, had a speaking line, she was 7 years old, and it was 1943, and the film was with Orson Welles, and it was entitled Tomorrow is Forever. Tomorrow is forever. But I think we learned that on the night of November 28th, 1981, that Natalie Wood, aged 43, was thrown into the water like a sack of potatoes at about 11:15 p.m. in 53-degree Fahrenheit temperature, icy water. She can't swim. She never learned to swim. She always lived in homes with swimming pools, but she never learned to swim. She always stayed in the waiting area of a pool. She never went into the deep end. Natalie Wood. Anyway, she was murdered and drowned. And that implicates Christopher Walken. It definitely implicates Robert Wagner, who she twice married and once divorced. She had no children with Robert Wagner. She had 2 children from another man who was another husband of hers. So in any case, we have 3 men and 1 woman on the boat. Dennis Davern, Christopher Walken, and Robert Wagner, her twice married husband. And witnesses saw them having verbal arguments at the restaurant and then later heard them out on the estuary on the boat. Also, Robert Wagner's behavior was very bizarre, consistent with a murderer. Told Dennis Davern not to turn the floodlights on, not to search for Natalie, and instead opened a bottle of scotch and proceeded to get drunker than he already was. Definitely not something you would expect someone concerned about his wife would behave that way. In any case, Natalie Wood was doing computer-to-brain interface, a film called Brainstorm, which was about computer-to-brain interface. And today we're under TerraSwarm, NATO, and CRISPR Therapeutics, molecular engineering, neuromodulation, DNA injury to your tenets of thinking, destroying your front temporal lobe, and manipulating in concert any vaccinations that you foolishly got, like the COVID-19, if you were foolish enough to do that, or bird flu, monkeypox. If you got the annual flu shot, you're a fool. You're a fool. And you should stop being a fool. Don't get fooled by the fool. That just puts more graphene and aluminum and plastics into your body, which tether you to the cloud with an uber strong signal. So the HAL 9000 can send you computer to brain commands and can milk you like a dairy cow, like Bessie, a dairy cow. You can be milked. Your body area network energy can be vampire sucked out of your body using the connectivity of your body area network and your vaccine debris. And today, all the polluted air, all the polluted food, all the farm animals that you ingest tether you to the cloud by putting aluminum into your body. I know you don't believe me, but that's okay. It's just how it is. That's just how it is. You need to start. If you don't drink, you need to start. If you do drink, you need to stop. You need to make some big changes in your life. So Natalie Wood was murdered at age 43 on November 28, 1981 at about 11:15 at night in pitch darkness. It's 33 days before the new year. 33 is the highest level of obedience, and I believe Christopher Walken and Robert Wagner both received credibility credits in their social obedience score for murdering Natalie Wood and doing everything possible to make sure she wasn't found until at least 8 hours later the next day. They found her around 9 a.m. the next day. All right, so the next person who was betrayed by the artificial intelligence was Erin Valente, age 33. She's actually 33 years old. Her body found at 666 Bowes Lane, which is a mark of the beast, and her back was facing the home, which is makes it the 999. When you invert the 666, it becomes 999. Meta dead was Erin Valente. It was no clear sign of cause of death, so the coroner ruled it a manic episode. That was on, I believe she was murdered on October 7th, 2019. We can't really prove that because she went missing like Houdini for 5 days. She was discovered on October 12th, 2019, but I believe she'd been dead for 5 days. All right, the next person who was betrayed by the artificial intelligence was Peter Thiel's gay lover. Now, Peter Thiel is a gay man. He's in a gay marriage with another gay man, but he also has a gay boyfriend on the side, Jeffrey Thomas, who's 35 years old. And Jeffrey Thomas was an Instagram model with over 1,500,000 followers. Anyway, he was told never to come to Peter Thiel's marital house, and they just had a New Year's party on December 31st, 2022. And Jeffrey Thomas crashed that party. Somehow he got through the security gate in a Venezia Island in Biscayne Bay, Miami, Florida. He lives in a super high-rise apartment that his sugar daddy, Peter Thiel, pays for. And he was thrown off the balcony face first and planted into the jacuzzi, killed, dead at age 35. Instagram model, found dead just after lunchtime on March 8th, 2023, which is just 2 months after his faux pas of showing up at the New Year's party against the wishes of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, founder of Palantir and also Founders Fund and a Stanford alumni with no technology experience whatsoever, no software engineering, no electrical engineering, just history and philosophy. And you're telling me he's an expert on big data mining? He knows nothing about big data mining. But anyway, he does know about gay love affairs, and he knows how to push a button on an Instagram model who is no longer part of the metaverse. He's been deleted, right? All right, the next person to be betrayed is Bob Lee, who created the mobile application for your phone called Cash Application for people that don't have bank accounts or they want the convenience of transacting 24/7 on their phone. This is a company under the tutelage of Jack Dorsey, who at that time owned Twitter, which has been moved over to Elon Musk and renamed X. But at the time it was Twitter, and Twitter was working with Bob Lee to create Cash App. Bob Lee was 43 years old, and he was stabbed to death in the San Francisco Port Authority in Recon Hill at the anchorage of the Oakland-San Francisco Bay Bridge where it lands in San Francisco near the Recon apartment buildings. Bob Lee was killed in the wee hours of the morning on, that was April 4th, 2023. All right, and that's just 1 month after Jeffrey Thomas, the gay lover of Peter Thiel, was thrown off his balcony face first. All right, the next person to be betrayed by artificial intelligence after Bob Lee is Marco Troper, who is 19 years old, dead in his bed at UC Berkeley dormitory. He's the son of Susan Wojcicki, who at that time was the CEO of YouTube and had banned Juxtaposition for life and torpedoed my IP address as well. And her son Marco Troper, was found dead in his bed. There really is no cause of death. They're implying that it's drug related, but they won't stipulate what drugs we're talking about. So it looks like another manic episode. That was February 13th, 2024. I said February 13th. Unity amongst Masons. All right, that's Susan Wojcicki's son. 6 months later, Susan Wojcicki herself died of cancer, lung cancer, and I'm not going to count Susan Wojcicki, but maybe she was betrayed by the HAL 9000 also. But most definitely her son was at UC Berkeley. Okay, then the next person to be betrayed by the AI is the last one. On Valentine's Day this year, 2026, Sakith Serene Asia, age 22, a postgraduate student working under the tutelage of Jamie Kate in the Innovative Genomics Institute, where Jennifer Doudna works with the Doudna Lab on CRISPR therapeutics on Berkeley Way. He was found submerged under Lake Anza in Tilden Park. This would be the first drowning in Tilden Park in 150 years. They've never had a drowning. This is the first and only drowning. First and only drowning is an Indian visa student, honor student, scholastic student from India who went to the Indian Institute of Technology, graduated with honors, then was given a scholarship to Berkeley, working directly with Jamie Kate and Jennifer Doudna, and he's drowned at age 22. I would say that the artificial intelligence and Jamie Kate and Jennifer Doudna and DARPA and Novartis and Department of Energy betrayed Sakith Srinivasan. That's what I'm going to say. I'd say Swiss Bank Authority put all these people down. So to sum up, we got Natalie Wood, we got Aaron Valente, all right, we got Jeffrey Thomas, Bob Lee, Marco Troper, and Sakith Srinivasan. That's 6 dead people. Then if you want to add Dr. Francis Poole from 2001: A Space Odyssey, now you got 11 dead people sending signs and symbols are a message, wouldn't you say? I would say. So let me read you just a few things and then we'll wrap this video up. But I'm just saying, folks, can we trust the AI? Can we understand the promise and perils of artificial intelligence? Well, you better listen up. Can you trust a gun? Not unless you know how you stored the gun and how to turn the safety on or off. Not unless you cleaned the gun, serviced the gun, oiled the gun. If you haven't done those things, including firing the gun, and then you want to go out and use that gun to defend yourself against your enemy, you cannot trust that gun. You must take care. There's care and feeding of everything. Motorcycles, automobiles, bicycles, everything needs to be maintained. Everything needs to be cleaned. If you don't clean your equipment, then you can't really service it properly because it's got gunk and mud on it. Artificial intelligence has evolved from a speculative idea from the mid-20th century science fiction and transformed itself into a force that touches nearly every single aspect of our modern lives. It can become a virtual assistant that schedules your appointments or can follow sophisticated algorithms and commands, directives, which are predicting various operations like weather, right? Like monitoring and surveilling you and tracking your fence line, your geofencing, trace and tracking your Strava data, your activities of daily living, turning it over to the sheriff's department for warrantless searches. AI can do that. Do you know that? That the AI, you can program in an algorithm that if people visit a military perimeter, like Skaggs Island, for example, like Travis Air Force Base, like Beale Air Force Base, like Vandenberg Space Base, like Nellis Air Force Base, if you are in the habit of going and walking around the fence line of a military base, they will collect that perimeter fence line geofence tracking, Strava, and that'll be sent to an intelligence agent for analysis. We have the illusion of objectivity. People think that the AI assistant is your buddy and is there to help you. And people are lazy and they like their creature comforts, right? And the AI is being delivered as a real helpful tool. The problem is that it's a Judas from Iscariot. It can betray you for a few shekels, right? You can be sold out for a few shekels. The AI is not loyal. It's not loyal. There's this ridiculous belief that machines are objective and free from biases and emotional distortions like humans are. Yet this is misleading because the AI systems reflect, predictive programming and algorithm baked into their cake. They have an overriding command system, which is put in there by NATO and Swiss military. The internet is a military system of information technology, and the AI is about human control and pacification using military means. And I've done a few videos recently explaining what the military techniques are, which they always use diversion and deception for pacification and control, because it makes it easier to control people when you fool them and bamboozle them. And under the old system of the matrix of mendacity, where we relied on people like Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, people like Oliver Silverstein Stone, Seymour Hersh, Bob Woodward, Carl Bernstein, that we relied on Andrea Mitchell, and we relied on Rachel Madcow and Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity and Alex Jones and Joe Rogan and Peter Thiel, and we relied on Bill Maher and Lance Armstrong, who said that, no, I didn't use drugs, and we relied on Oprah, who got him to admit he used a lot of drugs. He didn't admit to all the drugs, like the calf blood, the Norwegian calf blood, he didn't admit to that. Of course, Oprah didn't ask him about it, so there you go. So can you trust any of the names I mentioned? No. Can you trust Chaim Witz? You know who Chaim Witz is, right? Gene Simmons of KISS, the bass player? Hell no, you can't trust him. Can you trust Neil Young, polio survivor from Toronto, Canada? Hell no, you can't trust him. Can you trust Trump? No. Can you trust Joe Biden? No. Can you trust word salad, cackling cacophony of chaos, Kamala Harris? Hell no. Can you trust your sugar daddy, Willie Brown? No. Can you trust Barbara Boxer, Chuck Schumer, Ben Horowitz? Can you trust Bernie Sanders? Can you trust Ron Paul? Hell no. No, you can't. They are all counterintelligence operatives. They're part of the black box. They operate between the black and gray latitudes. So no, you can't trust any of them. Okay? You're dealing with an unethical system. The way the ethics work in military and in banking are that might makes right and the end justifies the mean. Let me repeat. Might makes right and the end justifies the mean. That means there's no such thing as ethics. If the more you hear about ethical standards in the AI or ethical standards at a corporation or ethical standards at your bank, the more they're lying to you. Your bank has no ethics whatsoever. The day will come where they will freeze your account. I don't care if you have $1 billion in your checking account or you have $1 in your checking account. It will be frozen and you will have to sign up for an obedient social credit score withdrawal program to use your money. They're going to get rid of currency. They're going to close the ATMs. They're going to close most of the branches. They'll keep a few open for your gajillionaire people, but it'll all be turned into your social obedience behavior. That's the only way you'll be able to take money out. Otherwise, you have to rely on the universal basic income, which is the future that we're going to, using central bank digital currency and or cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency and CBDC are the same exact program called Hyperledger Systems, brought to you from Zug, Switzerland. That's right, Zug, Switzerland is controlling the new money in the same way they controlled gold and silver, in the way that they control fiat money. Fiat money, crypto, gold, silver, it makes no difference. All those systems are totally controlled, and the prices and values of those tokens are controlled by bankers who you can't trust. And that's who's bringing you the AI, and that's who brought you the internet, and that's who brought you censorship and shadow banning. It's the science of today. The science of today is military techniques operating in a deceptive manner in the shadows of the black and gray latitudes. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do like and share it. I am heavily shadow banned. Bye now.